بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
Assalamu alaikum. The Lahore Ahmadiyya community welcomes you to its Sunday morning broadcasts. I just want to make an apology, and that is that for some reason the clip played at the beginning refers to an older broadcast. But the title below, Call of the Messiah 26, is correct. In this series, this organization, Lahore Ahmadiyya Community, which was created by Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad of Qadian, whose teaching was that the Holy Prophet Muhammad is the last prophet and no prophet shall come after the Holy Prophet Muhammad. Whether it is an old prophet or a new prophet, no prophet shall come. Some people bring an old prophet, some people bring a new prophet. Similarly, he taught that all the revelation sent to the Holy Prophet Muhammad is in the Holy Quran. Some people say Ayah Rajam is missing, some people say Surah Walayat is missing. He said nothing is missing. The Quran is complete. He also taught that the Holy Quran is perfect and none of its verses are abrogated. Some people believe that up to 500 verses of the Holy Quran have been abrogated. He rejected it all. And he said that in words of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, if one person who recites the kalima calls another reciter of the kalima to be a kafir and a heretic and out of the fold of Islam, then it is the caller who's the heretic. It is the caller who goes out of the fold of Islam. And he taught us that jihad is a duty of every Muslim. It cannot be abrogated. Its nature and form may change with the needs of the time and place, but every Muslim must conduct jihad. With that, we come to today's topic, which is refuting the beliefs of a group that say that Hazrat Mirza Sahib claimed to be a prophet. And we do that not by saying he said this and he said this, but from the book of a friend of our community who is not a member, but he has read our beliefs and the other group's beliefs and then judged them in the light of the teachings of Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad Sahib. The book is in Urdu, and I will share the Urdu with you, and I will give you an off-the-cuff translation with apologies for any inaccuracy. But the original is there for people to see. So let me show you the original. You can see the original, and the heading is about the prophethood of Mirza Sahib, the beliefs of the Qadiani group. And he summarizes their beliefs as such. According to the second Khalifa, Mirza Bashiruddin Mahmud Ahmad of the Qadiani Ummah, Mirza Ghulam Ahmad Sahib was called a prophet in 1884 at the time, and he wrote Brahimi Ahmadiyya Part 4. Mirza Mahmud Ahmad Sahib, he believes that Mirza Sahib failed to understand for 17 years, that is from 1884 to 1901, that he is a prophet. And for 17 years, he kept on saying that he was a muhaddas, which in Islamic terminology is a non-prophet with whom God speaks. And he kept on writing, I'm only a muhaddas. And this station was given to others such as Hazrat Umar and other saints of this ummah. But it was in 1901 that Hazrat Sahib realized that in 1884, the revelations he received, which he wrote in Brahimi Ahmadiyya, according to them, he really was a prophet. He wasn't a muhaddis. So in 1901, he laid a claim or made a claim to being a real prophet. Mirza Mahmud Ahmad writes, there was no time when the promised Messiah did not understand his claim. From the beginning to the end, he understood the station upon which Allah had set him. True, he was somewhat careful in using the name. Should it be prophethood or should it be muhaddasi? This he wrote in his pamphlet, Haqiqatul Amr, and it's found in their collection, Anwarul Ulum. So here, Mirza Bashiruddin Mahmud Ahmad Sahib says that Mirza Sahib understood his claim and his station. But the problem is that in his other book, Haqiqatul Nabuwat, the nature of prophethood, he has written the opposite. He says, before 1901, Hazrat Mirza Sahib said that by prophet is only meant a muhaddis. And in 1901, he announces that he must be a prophet. He cannot be a non-prophet recipient of revelation, a muhaddis. For muhaddis does not mean revealing what is in the unseen. And this difference arose because in the beginning he considered the definition of a prophet to be different, and because he did not consider himself to be a prophet, he thought, well, the next station down from prophethood, that is Muhaddas. So I must be that. But when he realized that this is the station of prophethood, and the definition which he thought was the definition of a Muhaddas was really a definition of the prophet, then he denied being a Muhaddas and announced that he was a prophet. So this is in Haqiqatul Nabuwat. The reference is given here by a friend who compiled this, who, as I keep saying, is not a member of the Jamaat. It is Anwarul Ulum, which is the collection of Mirza Bishuruddin Mahmud Ahmad's writings, page 452. So here, Mirza Bishuruddin Mahmud Ahmad admits or says that Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad did not consider himself to be a prophet before 1901, but considered himself to be a non-prophet with whom God spoke. In another place, he writes, in the same way, from the time of Brahim, that is the first book written by Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad, from the time of Brahim, Hazrat Mirza Sahib had been declared a prophet, that is in 1884. But God kept it hidden. And both these things, that is to declare Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad Sahib to be the Messiah and Prophet, were revealed at the time of Brahim Ahmadiyya, so that it cannot be proven that it is planned. And they were kept hidden so that the seekers after truth may not be excessively burdened. That is to say, if he claimed prophethood straight away, then people would have difficulty in accepting that. Then after a decade, the curtain was raised on the matter of death of Jesus. But it remained on the question of prophethood, so that the Jamaat may become strong. And then it was in 1901 that curtain was raised and the truth revealed. And all this is in accordance with God's ancient laws. Which ancient law? This is me asking. Which prophet was it who was made a prophet and kept denying it for nearly 2 decades before accepting it? We need an example. And the question of prophethood is just like the question of messiahship. And that is that at the beginning, although he was given the name Messiah, he kept considering Jesus to be alive. In the same way, although he was given the name prophet, he continued to interpret finality of prophethood as other people do. And just as the promised Messiah, despite having bestowed the name Nabi, he kept on interpreting finality of prophethood as other people do. That is, in my words, incorrectly. And just as at the beginning of the claim to messiahship, he kept on saying it is possible that some other messiah may come. And he kept on believing that just like him, there may be other messiahs. But later, after it became clear that there is no other, he wrote that there is no other messiah. In the same way, in the beginning, he would declare his prophethood to be partial. And from among the followers of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, he considered many people were included in this reward from Allah, that is partial prophethood. But when it was clearly revealed, then he wrote that no other person except me deserves this name. Thus, this is a miracle of God's wisdom. And it showed and it revealed God's ancient law. So foolish is the person who objects to it. For such objection will then fall upon all the prophets. But as our friend who compiled this says, is Mirza Bashiruddin Mahmud Ahmad Sahib trying to say that when a person is raised to the station of prophethood for years upon years upon years, he doesn't realize that he is a prophet? The promised Messiah, the detail of the prophethood that the promised Messiah explained has always been the same, which is that of the claim to prophethood. But there was a time when he did not give it the name prophethood. And then our friend adds, and that is to say, he would call it Muhaddasiyat. Mirza Mahmud Ahmad Sahib means that Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad Sahib would write the detail of his the detail of his claim as that God speaks to me in abundance. He gives me the name Nabi and Rasul. But by this, God only means that I am a Muhaddis. But after 1901, Mirza Ghulam Ahmad Sahib realized that this is a station above the station of Muhaddisiyat. This is real prophethood. In another place, Mirza Mahmud Ahmad Sahib says, first, this is wrong that the promised Messiah became a prophet gradually. I have proven that the detail of his claim that he explained in the beginning, that conclusively proved his prophethood. So from the very beginning, his claim was that like prophet. But if there was a change, then the change was that after 1901, he adopted this name with greater clarity. It wasn't gradual progress, but from the very beginning, it has been the same. So here he is saying that from the beginning, that is from 1884, he was made prophet, but he claimed it in 1901. Before that, he thought he was a muhaddis, that is a non-prophet. Now this leads us to difficulties. Number one, he was made a prophet in 1884, but for 17 years, he or God did not correct. So that shows that Mirza Sahib was not a prophet, because it is a matter of faith to believe in a prophet. And as Rasab said, that although prophets may make a mistake, if it's a matter of belief, then God immediately corrects them. And he says this in Malfuzat, quoted here. If this error is about religious matters, then they're immediately warned. But in other matters, it's not necessary that they are warned. And then later on again, in Azalai Oham, he says, yes, prophets, being human, can make a mistake, but in religious matters, this is the underlying part, but in religious matters, there's no room for such error. So, according to Hazrat Sahib's own writings, this is so. Then, if he was made a prophet in 1884, but he didn't understand it, then why didn't God correct him? The reason is that he wasn't a prophet. He was a muhaddis. As Hazrat Sahib himself writes in Tawzi Imran, this humble servant has come from Almighty God for this ummah as a muhaddis. Now this would be odd that, God sends a prophet and he says, no, I'm not a prophet. I'm a non-prophet, although God does speak to me. And for 17 years, God remains quiet and doesn't say to him, no, this is not so. People keep getting misled into thinking he's a muhaddis, a non-prophet. His own group keep thinking that they have accepted a mujaddid and a muhaddis, but still God doesn't speak. And as far as comparing it with the question of believing that Jesus was alive, the two things are not the same. If a person believes that Jesus is alive in heavens, he does not become a heretic. He does not go out of the fold of Islam. Because this has nothing to do with fundamentals of Islam. And Mirza Bashiruddin Mahmud Ahmad Sahib says that Hazrat Sahib was made a prophet in 1884. But for 10 years, he kept believing in life of Jesus, that Jesus is alive up in heaven. So what does that mean? That in those 10 years, Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad Sahib was not a Muslim? Hazrat Sahib himself says in Azalai Oham, quoted here, that first, understand that Jesus coming from the heavens is not a belief which is part of our fundamental beliefs, Iman. It's just a prophecy which has nothing to do with the fundamentals of Islam. It is not, when this prophecy the meaning of this prophecy wasn't revealed, Islam wasn't imperfect. And now that we have revealed it, Islam hasn't become perfect. So Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad himself says that this has nothing to do with fundamentals of Islam, becoming a Muslim. But the point is that if Hazrat Sahib had made a mistake in his claim that God had appointed him a prophet and he had said, "No, I'm not," then God would have corrected. And God didn't, which is conclusive proof that Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad was not a prophet. The other, and this is a completely new argument that our friend has put forward, and I'm grateful to him for doing this because I wasn't aware of it. That he says that Mirza Bishuddin Mahmud Ahmad Sahib counters what we've been saying by saying that we should not use the books before the books that Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad wrote before 1901 to refute this idea. Because at that time, Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad, his understanding wasn't correct and he was saying the wrong thing. But the difficulty is this, that in Aina Kamalat Islam, Hazrat Sahib says, most certainly I'm not a prophet. I am a muhaddas, a person to whom God speaks, so that I may reform, although it says the religion, what it means is Muslim practices. Or I may propagate the religion of Mustafa. Now, about this book, Hazrat Sahib says, I'm embarrassed when I say that I wrote it because I can see how from beginning to end, Allah helped me in strange ways in writing this book. And then he goes on to say, at the time of writing this book, twice the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam revealed himself to me and showed his pleasure at the writing of this book. And one night I saw that an angel was calling out, "Blessed is this book. Stand to show honor and respect for it." Now, the difficulty is this, that in this book, Hazrat Sahib clearly says, I am not a prophet. I am a muhaddis. Now, if this was wrong, when the Holy Prophet Muhammad appeared to him, why did not he say, "You're wrong, you're a prophet, you're not a muhaddis"? An angel came to announce to the world that this book was blessed. But that angel did not reveal to Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad Sahib that you are wrong in your belief to say that you are a muhaddis and mujaddid because you are a prophet. But Qadiani Jamaat wants us to reject this book. This book, which the Holy Prophet Muhammad was pleased that Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad had written. This book that an angel of Allah calls blessed. Qadiani Jamaat would have us reject that or parts of it. And this is not the only place. In Ayyam Sulah, Hazrat Sahib says, remember that in the Sahih of Muslim, the word Nabi has been used for the promised Messiah, but as a metaphor. but as a metaphor. Now we're told that we shouldn't use this quotation to refute the allegation that later on Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad Sahib claimed to be a prophet. But what does Hazrat Sahib say about this book? I advise the readers not to take this book lightly. I have delivered to them the message that God has given to me. And I am certain that I have completed the argument on them. And then he says that from the beginning, the prophets, the messengers, and others that God appoints. Well, God appoints three kinds of people: Nabi, prophets; Rasul, messengers; and others, or Tamam Mamureen, and others who are appointed. They prove the argument from God in three ways: one by commandments, second by rationality, and third by divine support. So, I too, with God's help, have done this. Now, he is saying that he's completed God's message in all ways, in all manner. And what was that message? That the word Nabi, used in Sahih of Muslim, is a metaphor. Now, Mirza Bishuruddin Mahmud Ahmad Sahib said that about the definition of Nabuwat and Muhaddasiyat and so on, and we shouldn't go to his old books and so on. What does Hazrat Sahib say? I have written some 22 books in eloquent Arabic and challenged people. And Arabic advertisements, announcements are in addition. And then he gives the names, Tabligh, which is the Arabic part of Ainai Kamalat Islam, and so on and so forth. And then he goes on to say, and this is the underlying part, so many books in Arabic consisting of such complex matters of knowledge and wisdom. How can a person write them without perfect knowledge? Perfect knowledge. And what I have written in these books, where are they? In Hariri and Hamdan. So Hazrat Sahib himself says that his Arabic writings are based on his perfect knowledge. But Mirza Mahmud Ahmad Sahib says no, he didn't know what he was. Mirza Ghulam Ahmad Sahib didn't know what he was talking about. Here is a quotation about Hamamatul Bushra. He says, this is perfectly a book that satisfies perfectly. And in it, by correct and definite and absolute arguments from God's book and from his Rasul's practice, we have explained and we have completed our argument on our own. about Azala Ham, which is quoted earlier. Sahib issued an advertisement. It says, it is announced that Azala Ham has been published, and in it, through knowledge received from Allah and other arguments, knowledge received from Allah and other arguments, it has been proven about death of Jesus. Divine revelation's difficult places and subtle points and explanations have been included. There are hundreds such matters which Allah the Almighty has revealed to this humble one and which are included in this book. Now, this is what Hazrat Sahib says about Azala Ham, but we are told that no, you mustn't use it to show that Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad did not claim to be a prophet. Now, you see, almost from the beginning, certainly from the time that Hazrat Sahib wrote Izalai Ham, the opponents were saying he is claiming prophethood. And Hazrat Sahib was denying it. So it seems to us that if Qadiani argument is to be accepted, then opponents of Hazrat Sahib understood divine revelation received by Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad better. That the opponents had more knowledge. They were wiser than the person who was supposed to be the Mujaddid of the age. And of course, then prophethood and messengership becomes a joke. That a prophet or a messenger comes and for 2 decades he doesn't even know that he's a prophet and messenger and keeps calling people to the wrong thing, keeps claiming the wrong thing. The difficulty is that Qadianis had made Mirza Bashiruddin Mahmud Ahmad Sahib the Muslim out, who's supposed to have perfect knowledge. And they cannot refute this. But in doing so, what they refute is the Holy Quran, the Hadith, and the writings of Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad himself. This has been shown by a person who's not a member of our jamaat. He has read, thoroughly studied our beliefs, Qadiani beliefs, and Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad's books, and he has come to this conclusion. This broadcast has become a bit longer than I had hoped. So without saying anything more, I take my leave of you. Assalamu alaikum, Khuda Hafiz, goodbye.